Welcome to the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am thrilled to have you join me on this transformative journey. You see, every day we dive into a powerful conversation about self-discovery, healing, and empowerment. This podcast is brought to you by Ask Nyomi and Elevate Me Self-Discovery, where we believe that loving yourself is the first step to living a fulfilling life. You can expect insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories. Plus, we'll occasionally welcome special guests who will share their unique perspectives on self-love and personal growth. So get comfy, grab your favorite beverage, and let's embark on this journey together. Because it's time to embrace the beautiful person that you are. So let's elevate our lives one episode at a time. Now let's get started. All right, my beautiful people. Well, welcome to Threshold Thursday here on the Season of Self-Love podcast. I am your host, Nyomi Banks, and I am so grateful that you are joining me today as we continue our powerful April series on mindfulness and presence. Well, this month, it's been all about returning to the now and learning to be fully present in our lives and experiencing each moment with awareness, intention, and love. And today we're focusing on something so important for deepening our mindful practice and creating a sacred space in our lives. You know, this week we had an incredible rich already. On Monday, Dr. Will shared his wisdom about being in the now and how mindfulness helps us reduce anxiety. And on Tuesday, we explored on how our bodies serve as powerful guides for mindfulness. And yesterday, Alexa Darrin, she taught us about energetic hygiene and how to trust our inner guidance. But before we dive deeper into today's topic, let's take a quick break, all right? It's your girl, the Goddess Nyomi Banks, here on the Season of Self-Love podcast, and we'll be right back.
Ready to transform how you think about love and mental health? This May, join host Nyomi Banks and Dr. Will Washington and expert guests on Love and Mental Health, a powerful 4-part series exploring relationships through the lens of mental wellness. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time on Ask Nyomi, Bridging the Gap. Do you have a story to share? Your experience matters. Email us at asknyomi@gmail.com and be part of the conversation that's changing lives.
Washington Wellness Institute focuses on healing always. For me, if I look good, then I feel good. If I feel good, then I share the good. If I share the good, then I celebrate the good. If I celebrate the good, then I live the good. So I can be paid to be my greatest. But I have to learn the good to be the good.
So, what does it take to be the greatest? It's as simple as a free 15-minute consultation. Be kind to yourself and heal always.
All right, my beautiful people, welcome back. So before we dive deeper into today's topic, let's ground ourselves with a mindful breathing practice that helps us to arise fully in this moment together, all right? So if you are able to, I invite you to close your eyes. And if you are driving or doing something that requires your visual attention, just bring your awareness to your breath. All right, we're going to practice the 4-4-6 breathing pattern I mentioned earlier this week. We're going to breathe in your nose for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Now hold your breath for a count of 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. And exhale slowly through your mouth for a count of 6. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now let's do that once again together. Inhale through your nose. 1, 2, 4, 5, 6. Now I want you to feel how this breath creates your space in your body and in your mind and in your heart. Now, as you continue breathing naturally, I want you to bring your awareness to the space that you're in right now. Notice the physical boundaries around you. the walls, the ceiling, the floor. I want you to notice the quality of light, the sounds, the temperature. Now imagine this space, wherever you are, becoming sacred through your presence and intention. And as you breathe, you're transforming your ordinary space into a sacred space. Take one more deep breath in. And as you exhale, I want you to bring this sense of sacred space with you into our conversation today. All right? All right, my beautiful people. And if you are new here to the Season of Self-Love podcast, that's something we do every day, Monday through Friday, just to help ground us before we get into the topic at hand. All right, so on Monday, when Dr. Will spoke about mindfulness, he mentioned that one of the best times to practice is in the morning before everybody's up. And that got me to thinking about how important it is to create a dedicated space, both physical space and time space, for a mindful practice. But because, let's be real, in our busy lives, mindfulness doesn't just happen automatically. We need to intentionally create the conditions that allow presence to flourish, right? And that's what creating a sacred space is all about. Now, when I say sacred space, I'm not necessarily talking about anything religious, though it can certainly include that if that's your path. What I mean is any space, physically, temporal, or energetic, that you can set aside specifically for presence, awareness, and connection with yourself. Now, this is something that came up in my conversation with Alexa yesterday when she talked about energetic hygiene, right? She mentioned on how important it is to clear your energy of what's not yours and to create boundaries that protect your presence. So creating a sacred space is a powerful way to do exactly that. So let me share something personal with you. When I first began taking my mindfulness practice seriously, I struggled because I didn't have a dedicated space for it. I would try to meditate in my bedroom, but I'll get distracted by anything. Then I try to practice in the living room, but then family members will walk through. That's when I did my closet. I had my closet space at first, and that was something. Can you imagine being in the closet? And at that time, I wasn't doing it particularly in the early mornings. I would, just do it when I wake up, after I did some things, and then I will go in and it will be my closet space. And actually, I had it in my closet space for quite some time, for some years. Even when I lived in California, it was in my closet space. There will be my prayer room, is what I call it. And imagine just being in there where, your clothes and then my husband's clothes and shoes and stuff was in there. And he would have to come in there and get it when he had to go to work or something like that. So it would interrupt me. So actually, after my middle baby went away to college, I used her room, and that's when I created the Golden Rose Room. It's a nice room space in there that I dedicated solely to my spiritual and mindful practices. I painted my walls gold and white with pink accents over there with, roses on it. So I made it to my room, and this specifically for me. But you don't have to do anything fancy like that. I just be doing too much, as people would say. But it's mine, and I love it. I have my gold statues of, different things from, a lot of positive affirmation signs of love. Happiness has come from within, different stuff like that around my space. But when I step into that space, my body and my mind immediately shift into a more present state because I've trained them to be associated to that space with mindfulness. I think I shared once before about my husband just standing in the threshold of that room. And he feels so calm. I mean, I have my incense, I have like a little bowl to where I have my melted candles there that has incense there. Then I have the right lighting. Like when I say I set this room up specifically for that, I did, because I knew that I needed it. And I've had that room now for 4 years. Um, when I first had it, and I'm going to share this with you all, that I used to have a bed in there, first a couch, and then I let out bed in there. And when I have guests over, I will allow my guests to be in there, but that interrupted my time. And so I know this sounds crazy, but I no longer do that. I just keep that as my sacred space. Um, yeah, I don't let anyone else go in the room. I just don't, unless they're going in there to pray or they need to talk. And then that's the room that we go into. Even when myself and my husband talk, or me and my middle baby, we talk, we go in that room and talk, because it's a calmness in that room. It's just a calmness in that room. I truly believe that it's just setting the tone, being intentional of that room is very beneficial for not only um, my healing journey, but also I believe for my family's healing journey. All right, as well. Excuse me, as well. So, what exactly is a sacred space, and how do we create one in our everyday lives? Well, sacred space is an environment, whether physical, temporal, or energetic, that you intentionally set aside for presence and self connection. It's a container that holds your mindful practice and helps it flourish. And there's actually 3 steps of a sacred space that I found essential for deepening my mindful practice, and I want to share that with you today. First is the physical sacred space. It's a dedicated location where you practice mindfulness. It can be a whole room like my Golden Rose room, or it can be just a corner of your bedroom with a cushion and a candle. The key is that this space is used primarily for mindfulness, so your brain begins to associate with its presence. So let me share. I When we first moved into our home here, when we purchased it, and I just remember going through the whole entire house. So when we were looking for homes here in Las Vegas, I remember we had to see at least 20, 25, 30 homes in a span of 24 hours with our realtor. And I remember she was so shocked on how quickly I will go into different spaces of different homes and walk around or go right in, and I will feel a certain type of energy like, no, that's not it. No, this is not it. And our realtor actually had been to our old house in California. We actually met her through her son, who we had cast for a mainstream film that we were working on. And so we had did a wrap party at our home, to where she was able to, her and her husband and her children were able to come. And so she had seen our home and what our home looked like. So she thought that I was comparing the 2 homes, where I was going to now and where I was coming from. And she was like, well, you're not going to be able to find a home like this here. And I said, no, that's not what I'm looking for. And at that time, and I want to be very honest, I didn't even understand what I was looking for. I just knew there was feeling that, like, this is not it. This is not it. And she was like, are you looking for high ceilings like your old house? I said, no, I don't believe that's it. No, I said, it's something that I'm looking for, that spiritually that I'm looking for. And I told her, I said, and I don't even think that I knew that I was going to be doing this, because mind you, we've been to Vegas several times looking from homes before with her. So that's why she was pretty shocked on how we were going in and out of these homes so quickly. And then it was like, no, no, no. But when I came to this house and I walked around and I did something, I came through the front door, went out the back, walked around through the gate, came back around, walked through the front door, went through the back again. And it was something that I felt was like, okay, this feels good. This feels good. It's between this house and another house that felt so good to me, like this is where we need to be. And then honestly, at that moment, that's when I knew this was going to be a home for transitioning. And honestly, I didn't think it was going to be a home for transitioning for me. I was thinking about different programs that, I wanted to start through the foundations that I was starting, like with Our Souls Are Not Lost um, and the Papa Lock Foundation. So I was thinking more in that sense of, getting different service homes where, people can live for a few years and transition and move forward. That's what I was thinking, but not truly thinking about my own transition because I didn't understand exactly if I needed and what that transition was for me, right? So let's talk about temporal sacred space. And I just wanted to share that with y'all for a moment about understanding energetically and trusting your gut and your feeling when you walk into these spaces. And I just wanted to share that with you on how I even came to even choosing this home that I live in now. And now we talk about the temporal sacred space. It's a dedicated time that you set aside regular for mindfulness. And Dr. Will mentioned 3 optimal timers: morning before everyone wakes up, lunch break, and an hour before bed. By creating this consistent times for practice, you build mindfulness into the rhythm of your day. And that's helped wonders for me. I get up early in the morning. My clock. My clock for me gets me up about 3:30, 4 o'clock every morning. And so I'm able to go into my Golden Rose room and able to spend that time, whether it's 30 minutes to an hour. And I remember when I first started really getting into it and doing mindfulness and my prayer and all of those things. I remember spending hours in there, and I knew that's when I had to go in there early because I had to get baby girl up at about 6 o'clock, 6:30, 7 o'clock to get her ready for school, to fix her breakfast, her lunch. And so I knew I needed to allot time out for that, as well as that was my time for workout as well. And so I knew if this was something very important to me, that I had to make sure that I dedicated at least that time for that. And that was early morning for me. When I started to implement my midday, had to be around the time that I started the season of self-love. And I believe through trying to figure out a way that came through. And I remember sharing it on one of the shows in the beginning of the season of self-love. And then before I go to bed at night, that was a must and a need for me because I needed to calm whatever the day was for me. But also, as I got further into my mindfulness practice, it was more for gratitude as well. So by creating consistent times for practice, like I said before, you build mindfulness into a rhythm for your day. Now let's talk about an energetic sacred space. Is the boundary that you create around your energy field. So what Alexa's called as an energetic hygiene. This is about clearing out energies that don't belong to you and protecting your field from taking on others' energies. It's more of a subtle form of sacred space, but just as important. And to be very honest, for me, that has been something that has been challenging for me. I think, as I mentioned, that I have been very sensitive energetically when I'm around people. I think for like a year, I kind of didn't go out too much because it would definitely keep me to where I was a lot drained. So I want to share 3 practices that I think that can help you create these different types of sacred space. All right, first, creating physical sacred space. I want you to choose a location in your home that can be dedicated to mindfulness. Even if it's just a corner, as I mentioned before, keep it clean and free from distractions. You'll want to spend time there. For me, my golden room, I have an altar. I have comfortable cushions. I have candles. I have meaningful objects that remind me of my spiritual journey. I have a bunch of different journals, a whole basket of different journals. Um, but when I enter that space, I immediately feel a shift in my energy because my body knows it's time to be present. Wait, so let me go back to when I first, because I think I just talked about the whole home, but in my bedroom, when I first was starting off, I didn't do the closet just yet. It was in the corner of my bedroom on my side of the room. And I remember setting it all up, everything up. And I think this is when my husband really kind of in tune of what I was doing. Because in the closet, I just had like my forgiveness letters and stuff like that, that was posted underneath the they had to open the clothes back to see all of that. But I didn't set up an altar. There was no altar there. So this was the first time that I was setting up an altar with the candle, in a prayer. And it was so funny because at that time we only had one dresser drawer. So we were sharing a dresser drawer, and that was the side where everything was on. And so when he go over there, I remember giving him this funny look like, why are you over there? Knowing that he had to go get his clothes. Knowing that he had to go get his clothes from there. But just thinking about that corner over there where nobody can get to or sacred, that was just a funny moment that I just had to share. All right, let's go back to my Golden Goals room where I do have my altar and stuff like that. And so when I do go into that space, it is so energetic. And now that I think about it, that's why he just stand at the threshold like, can I come in? Because I used to side eye him on the. I am so sorry, because I'm just thinking about this now in real time. Like, okay, so that's why he just stand at the threshold of the room and be like, "Can I come in? Is it good for me to come in?" Because I used to give him the side look when he used to be by my altar, and this was many years ago. With that, oh wow, okay. So my second one is establishing. The second one is establishing a temporal sacred space. Look at your schedule and identify consistent times when you can practice mindfulness. Even if it's 5 minutes, that 5 minutes can be so powerful if it's consistent. Protect these items like you would any important appointment. These times, because these appointments with yourself is perhaps the most important ones that you will keep. I found that the morning time for me is very essential for me. Those 30 minutes to an hour at my altar before the world gets busy. But I've also started taking mindful breaks throughout the day, as I mentioned before, even if it's 3 conscious breaths between tasks or meetings. It's something else that I do. I go outside in the backyard and I sit by the pool and I just, do nice deep breath and I do a prayer. I do a nice prayer. Third is maintaining energetic sacred space. I want you to begin each day by clearing your energy field through visualization of movement. And I want you to imagine that light flowing through your body, clearing out any energies that don't belong to you. So throughout the day, especially after interaction that feel draining, take a moment to reset your energetic boundaries. And this practice has been a game changer for me as an impact. As I've shared earlier this week, I'm highly sensitive to other energies, and just learning to clear and protect my energetic space has allowed me to be present with others without taking on their emotional states. So these 3 practices work together to create a container of mindfulness that extends beyond formal meditation sessions and into our everyday lives. The physical space reminds you to practice. The temporal space gives you the time to practice, and the energetic space protects the quality of your presence. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. Naomi, this sounds lovely, but my life too is too chaotic for this. I got too many kids. My wife won't let me do. My husband won't let me do. I share my home with my family. I work long hours. How am I supposed to create a sacred space in the midst of all of that? I hear you. I really do. I just shared a few stories with you now. But creating that sacred space doesn't require perfect conditions or elaborate setups. It don't. It's about working with what you have and getting creative. If you can't have a dedicated physical space, maybe your sacred space is portable. A special cushion that you can bring out when you practice, or even just a beautiful stone that you can hold that reminds you to be present. So if you can't have that 30 minutes in the morning, maybe start with 3 conscious breaths when you first wake up. The key is to begin to where you are and with what you have. Any intentional space for mindfulness, no matter how small, is powerful. I learned this lesson during a particular chaotic time in my life when my schedule was overflowing and my home was busy with family activities. A frustrated man, as I told you, when I used to look over, my husband used to be in that corner. Yeah. I remember a particular time when we were getting ready to do my mother a big 70th celebration. I remember we had family that flew in from out of town, but we had particular family members that were staying in the home at that time. And this is where I had my my altar on my side of the room. And I remember I thought that I had covered it. And I remember having family members who would come and, people just look, oh, what's this? And it just felt so disturbing. Actually, that was when I said I need to move it into the closet. I need to bring it out into the closet because it just felt like, yeah, let me move my sacred space over there. But also during that time too of the scheduling, that is when actually, when I think about it, that is when I was doing, when I had to bring in that midday session, just take that breath. And I was going into my closet. I had to move that and go into my closet and take that break because it was just so much that was going on. It was so much going on and just so many things energetically that was going on with different people. It was going on. So that fit me perfectly. Doing all of that fit me perfectly. But also, and I don't know if I shared that this week or last week, but also was a sacred space for me was my car. My car has always been my sacred space during my commute, especially when I was back home in Chicago. And I used to I used to live in Indiana, in Hammond, Indiana, and I would have to drive all the way to Bolingbrook. That's about a good hour drive in traffic, probably longer than that. So my commute used to be longer than when I used to go to the studio that was downtown. CRC, the same thing. That was a commute for me. And so those were most of my time to sacred between that, to taking my daughter to school, picking her up. I was spent most of my time in my car. And so I was able to have those sacred spaces in there. I remember praying all the time, but not truly understanding what that is. But now when I get in my car, I know those are my sacred space that I can have, and I can be in my present moment, even when driving. Yeah. And another one is your bathroom. Your bathroom can become your sacred space for 3 conscious breaths in a busy day. The corner of your yard can become a space of, for grounding. Mine have a corner of my space is a grounding space, and then I have I built a garden right next to it, where I reset a lot there. I'm able to do that there. But also, what I discovered is that sacred space isn't something that's outside of us. that we need to find or create perfectly. It's something that we carry within us that we can activate anywhere, anytime. That physical space and dedicated time support the inner space, but they don't define it. They don't define it. Now, I want to share a quick practice with you that helps tremendously in creating and maintaining a sacred space, and it's called the Sacred Space Ritual. And it helps you to establish a container for mindfulness that works with your unique life circumstances. So again, find a quiet moment with your journal, and I want you to follow these steps, all right? Step 1, a physical space exploration. Look around your home or workplace and identify potential locations for a physical sacred space. Where do you feel most at peace? Where could you realistically practice regular without interruption? And write down all the possibilities, no matter how small or unconventional that it can be. All right, step 2, a temporal space mapping. I want you to look at your typical daily schedule. Where are the natural pauses or transitions? When can you realistically set aside even 5 minutes for mindfulness? Consider what Dr. Will recommended, the times of morning, midday, and evening, and write down all the potential temporal sacred spaces for that. And then step 3, the energetic space awareness. Reflect on your energetic boundaries. When do you feel most energetically clear and protected? And then when do you feel most vulnerable to taking on others' energies? I want you to write down practices that help you to maintain energetic hygiene, like the ones that Alexa shared. In step 4, sacred space design. Based on your reflection, design your personal sacred space practice. And this might include a physical location or how you set it up, a specific time during your day for mindfulness, rituals for maintaining energetic hygiene, and elements that make these spaces feel sacred to you. And number 5, the implementation commitment. Choose one aspect of your sacred space design to implement it this week. Keep it simple and achievable. Write down specifically what you'll do when you will do it. With these rituals, it'll help you to create a sacred space, a practice that work with your life as it is right now. Not some ideal version of your life that might exist in the future. It's about finding the sacred in the ordinary and making space for mindfulness amidst the realities of your day-to-day existence. Now, as we begin to wrap up today's episode, I want to emphasize on that creating a sacred space is an ongoing practice, not a one-time event. The spaces that we establish will evolve our lives as our lives evolve. And what matters is the intention behind them, the commitment to making room for presence in our lives. And I want you to remember that the ultimate purpose of creating a sacred space isn't to escape from life, but to be more fully present for it. The mindfulness that we cultivate in our sacred space is meant to extend into every moment, into every interaction, into every breath of our lives. As Alexa shared yesterday, when we clear our energy and connect with our inner guidance, we become more available to our purpose and to our truth. Sacred space creates the conditions for that connection to happen. Well, tomorrow on Freedom Friday, we explore on how mindfulness liberates us from the patterns and the habits that we keep stuck. You know, those habits that keep us stuck? Well, yeah, we're going to talk about that tomorrow and how we can become free from them. We're going to talk about how being fully present allows us to make choices from freedom rather than conditioning, and how these transforms our relationship with ourselves and others. So until then, I invite you to spend some time with that sacred space ritual, identifying where and when you can create containers for mindfulness in your life, and commit to establishing at least one this week. Remember, my beautiful people, sacred space doesn't have to be perfect to be powerful. Even small, consistent spaces for presence can transform your experience of life. The key is to begin where you are and what you have right now. This is your girl, the goddess Nyomi Banks, and you are listening to the Season of Self-Love. Oh, before we end today, I want to remind you about the Year of the Rebirth Workbook. Has powerful exercises on creating sacred space in your life. And if you haven't already, be sure to follow us on Instagram, the Season of Self-Love Podcast, for daily mindfulness, inspiration, and community support. Thank you again for sharing this space with me today, and until tomorrow, remember to love yourself fiercely, create space for presence, and trust the wisdom that emerges when you are fully here. Have an amazing day. Thank you for joining us on this journey of discovering and empowerment here at the Season of Self-Love Podcast. Remember, embracing self-love is a continuous journey, and we're so glad to have you with us. So if you enjoyed today's episode, please leave us a review. And don't forget to join our community on Facebook at Season of Self-Love. Connect with like-minded individuals who are also on their self-love journey. Now, if you have any questions or topics that you'd like for us to explore, we love to hear from you. Email us at seasonofselflove@gmail.com and let your voice be heard. So until next time, take a moment for yourself today and remember, you are worthy of love, joy, and all the beautiful things that life has to offer.